Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our HJI Virtual Faculty Roundtable gathering this evening. My name is Stephen Boyd, and I'm the Dean of Enrollment Management and Student Life here at HJI. It's my honor to welcome you and to thank you for coming to join us tonight in this special meeting. Once a month, we have these roundtable sessions in which one of our distinguished faculty members presents on a topic of their interest, their research, an area that they've been published in, or some other area of interest to our unification community and the HJI as an institution. So we're so grateful that you're here this evening. I'd like to introduce our host for this evening, Dr. Thomas Walsh. Dr. Walsh is our president here at the institution. He's been with us under his able leadership. We've advanced significantly. Many of you know Dr. Walsh for his many long years of service to our co-founders, Reverend and Dr. Shimmyo Moon, Mrs. Moon, our true parents. We are grateful for the opportunity we have to inherit from him. As you know, he served for many years in the founding and in the leadership of the Universal Peace Federation, and he served there until recently, before coming to HJI as the international chair for UPF. So it's my honor and privilege to be able to welcome Dr. Thomas Walsh as our host. Dr. Walsh?
Thank you, Dean Stephen Boyd. Dean Boyd, of course, is our Dean of Enrollment Management and a great, not only a great master of organizing webinars along with Angelica Baczynski, but really a great asset for HJI. So thank you for all the work you put in behind the scenes to develop these programs. And as Dean Boyd said, we're very happy tonight that this is another faculty roundtable. We're proud of our faculty. They're the kind of core of our institution, which has the mission of educating our students and our best to create leaders who can make broad and dramatic and transformative impact on the wider society. That's why, with the guidance of our founder, we came up with a new name that was approved that has within it the goal of peace and public leadership, that we create public leaders who are rooted in spirituality and religion, but also can understand ministry and in a wide range of contexts in our wider world. So very happy that this evening we featured Dr. Theodore Shimmyo. He is known to many of you who have joined tonight. He is a respected elder in our movement. He is one of the early Japanese members who have devoted themselves so much to the wider global development of our movement, came to the United States early on. He was a member of the very first graduating class of then UTS, now HJI. And this was 49, almost 50 years ago that class and that school was purchased and kind of launched. So we'll be celebrating those 50 years, that 50-year legacy that we're so proud of, and so proud of our alums, and so proud of Dr. Shimmyo. He succeeded President David S.C. Kim as the second president of this great institution. He earned his PhD at Drew University, and he's been working on a book, an important book on Unification Theology and the Christian tradition. And he's going to introduce that book and I think take us through some of the key concepts and areas that he's explored and offered his constructive thinking about. So at this point, it gives me great pleasure and an honor to invite Dr. Theodore Shimmyo to begin his presentation. His presentation will take altogether about 30 to 35 minutes. Probably midway through, there will be a brief intermission where he and I may exchange a couple of questions and dialogue a little bit. Then he will resume. And at the latter part, let's say the latter third of this 1 hour program, the last 20 minutes approximately, the floor will be open. And so put your comments and questions in the chat column, and we'll seek to get to all of them as best we can. Without further ado, Dr. Theodore Shimmyo.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the faculty forum this evening. And Dr. Walsh, thank you so much for your kind introduction. This evening, I prepared PowerPoint slides, so let me show them. Okay, the topic of my presentation is Unification Theology and the Christian tradition this evening. And a little bit about my forthcoming book from HJI Press. The book title is Unification Theology and the Christian Tradition, and the subtitle is Toward an Understanding of the Unity of God and Creation. This subtitle is quite an important one, actually. This is the basic theme that permeates the entirety of the book. There'll be 12 chapters. First, approaching the Bible, because the Bible is the foundation upon which DP, divine principle, was suggested by our founder. Second, faith and reason. Third, God's heart, 2 aspects of love. Number 4, God and the world. Number 5, the Trinity. And number 6, suffering of God. 7, the fall. 8, the problem of evil. 9, Christology. 10, the atonement. Atonement means Christ's work to save all of us. Number 10, Providential History of Modern Thought. Number 11, Eschatology. And much of traditional Christian theology has not been able to confidently talk about complete unity between God and creation. God, considered to be a perfect and infinite God, is quite distant from and unmoved by the imperfect and finite world of creation. Therefore, many unsolvable, difficult theological issues have arisen in Christian theology. By contrast, Unification theology has a conceptuality of a complete unity of God and creation, thus being able to provide ways how these difficult issues can be addressed. While providing ways of solution, however, Unification theology, at least in my own approach, appreciatively deals with Christian theology's accomplishments. That's a very important point. My book is actually Unification Theology 2.0, as Dr. Young Kim published Unification Theology back in 1980, and its revised edition came 1987. A little autobiographical sketch, because some of you may wonder why I, someone from Japan, which is not even a Christian nation, is so much involved in Christian theology. I would say I have been quite even obsessed with Christian theology, Christian values for many years. At high school, where I was a student, I received a copy of the New Testament from the Gideon International. My English teacher was a Christian, therefore he invited a couple of people from this organization, and they distributed free copies of the New Testament. That's how I got my own copy of the New Testament. After that, I started reading the New Testament, and I was struck with Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, especially Matthew 6:5. It reads, "When you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, that they may be seen by man. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward." I was deeply moved with this passage because I used to hate hypocrisy, even as a high school student. Also, with Jesus' great spiritual authority, I was struck. I was blown away. Jesus and his disciples were on a boat on the ocean, and the storm came, and the disciples were really afraid of the dangerous situation. And Jesus gave the direction to the world and of nature, even having control over the storm. And he said to them, "Why are you afraid? Oh, man of little faith," Matthew 8:26. I decided that Jesus be my teacher in my life. I don't know why that happened, but I was so deeply moved. Also, when I joined the Unification Church in 1966, my father severely persecuted me. The first thing I saw at that time of persecution was a vision of Jesus being persecuted and killed on the cross. I cried a lot. So my father decided that I became mentally insane. He told me to go to mental hospital. But immediately after I cried, I had a dramatic experience of the Holy Spirit that was coming into my own body. I actually saw the round, ball-shaped kind of thing with a white color, golden color, with the diameter of 15 to 20 inches. And I was consoled. I felt so grateful. I was so much determined to go this path. Also, I came to USA as a missionary in 1973, and 2 years after that, UTS was founded, and I was invited to be one of the students of the first class. Dr. Mickler was my classmate. Dr. Wilson came to UTS a year later. But after graduating from UTS, I had a chance to go to the PhD program of Drew University to obtain doctorate in Christian theology. I was seriously interested in each of the major theologians, including Paul, Augustine, Aquinas, Luther, John Wesley, and Karl Barth. Even before coming to USA, I was really drawn to Luther. I read his own treatises and articles and books, and also books about him as well. I also loved Augustine very much, loving and respecting them as they were truth seekers. I think I was quite a serious truth seeker, so I think I was able to relate to all of them. I was comforting them prayerfully and crying with them together. Now, essence of unification theology. Unification theology has a conceptuality of complete unity between God and creation. Look at this diagram here on the slide. According to unification theology, God has a dual characteristics of Sonsan and Hyunsan. Oh, that means internal nature and external form. Korean term sonsan, hyunsan. And these two things are completely united through give and take action. As a result of that, the perfect give and take generates acting energy, which is given to the creation. And suppose creature A exists with the dual characteristics of sonsan, small sonsan, lowercase ss and hs. They are encouraged to unite within the creature A, and when the unity is created, then it reflects God's own unity of sonsan, hyunsan, centering upon heart. So it gives joy to God. So God and creation act upon each other, not only at the individual level, but social level as well. Creature A and creature B, different creatures are encouraged to make unity under the influence of acting energy coming from God. And once the unity is created between creature A and B, it reflects the unity of sonsan, hyunsan within God. Therefore, it gives joy to God on the social level. But when it comes to Christian theology, God has no dual characteristics. Under the influence of Aristotelian philosophy, God is purely spiritual, pure form, completely actualized, perfect on his own as pure form. And when it comes to creation, all creation, all creatures, okay, the creature A, for example, has a duality of form and matter. It's similar to the dual characteristic of sonsan and hyunsan, but in case of Christianity, to follow the Aristotelian or Platonic tradition, duality of form and matter. And as long as it contains matter, it is far from perfect. It is imperfect. It is finite, whereas God alone is perfect and infinite. So that is because God has no dual characteristics. God, of course, acts upon creation, but not vice versa. Hence, there's no real unity. I learned this topic from German theologian Jürgen Moltmann, who recently passed away. He said in his books, God and creation act upon each other. That shows a real unity between God and creation. Now, this slide shows the summary of those points, but this last 2 points, okay, bold letters here. Creation, as long as it's sonsan, hyunsan, of complete give and take, resembles God's perfection, and creation can become divine, therefore. And when it comes to Christian theology, only God is perfect and infinite. Creation, as long as it contains matter, is imperfect and finite. Creation is not divine at all. I have a comment on the meaning of divinity in this context. From what I have spoken about, divinity would not be something which is exclusively God's. It would be something that human beings, as the image of God, also can possess when their dual characteristics completely resonate with God's. If so, divinity must be referring to the state of the complete unity of dual characteristics in total investment of love and sacrifice for the sake of others. Actually, the real meaning of dual characteristics is give first and receive next, living for the sake of others in the spirit of love and sacrifice. So Martin Luther would agree, because his theology of the cross, for example, holds that the divinity of God was most strikingly expressed in the despised man Jesus on the cross, who inherited it by practicing together with God total love and sacrifice for the sake of others. Please look at his Heidelberg disputation that took place in 1518. It's a so profound statement, Heidelberg disputation. From that, we can learn so many deep things, actually. That's my personal experience. By the way, Luther had a similar doctrine of God's dual characteristics, actually. According to Luther, God is Deus absconditus. That means the hidden God. On the other hand, God is also the Deus revelatus. That means the revealed God. So I will not talk about it in detail. I have no time. But on a different occasion, I will be interested to talk about Luther's doctrine of God's dual characteristics. Solving the difficulty of Christology. Well, I would like to talk about Christology and the Trinity in the rest of my given time. And Christology, actually many Christian theologians confess that topic of Christology is very difficult because divine nature and human nature. Divine nature is infinite and human nature is finite. How could these two come stay together in the one person of Jesus Christ? The Trinity is also another difficult topic because according to the traditional Christian doctrine of Trinity, God is, okay, Father is God, the Son is God, Holy Spirit is God. That would mean there are three gods, but Christianity is monotheistic. Therefore, it teaches absolutely that there's only one God. So 3 equals 1. That constitutes a mystery. Now let's begin with the difficulty of Christology. The Ecumenical Council of Chalcedon took place in 451, and about 600 bishops gathered together to this council, not just priests, but bishops. Council of Chalcedon decided that Christ is both fully human, entirely divine, and entirely human as well. That is wonderful. That is fine, actually. However, the problem is that God was regarded as infinite, while human beings was known to be finite. So Christian leaders could not reconcile between Christ's full divinity, that is infinite, and full humanity, that is finite, in his person. You know, Jesus had only one person, not 2 different persons, only one person. Within the only one person, how could infinity and finitude can stay together in unity? That's a difficult question. With no reconciliation between infinite divine nature and infinite human nature, it was decided in Christianity that Christ is just either God himself or a man himself. Look at the left side of the slide. With Christ, it's God himself, who is fully divine and infinite. That's the position of conservative position of high Christology. And Christ's human nature, if any, is merely a later little addendum. It's not very important. Although Chalcedon decided that God is fully human, in actuality, high Christology decided that the human nature of of Jesus Christ, who is equal to God, is merely later little addendum. In Greek, it is called physis anhypostatos. Physis means nature. Anhypostatos means impersonal. An means negation. Hypostatos means personal, non-personal nature. That means human nature is not the part of the person of Jesus Christ. The person of Jesus Christ is God. When I was a student, faculty member of UTS, my elder faculty, to Dr. Machuk, I presented this Greek expression, and he couldn't figure out the meaning of this one because he is a Roman Catholic. But this is the Greek expression, physis hypostatos. Now, when it comes to low Christology, which is liberal position, Christ is a man himself who is fully human and finite. If Christ has any divine nature, that is merely a later adopted adoptionism, right? Little later addendum. It means very unique quality which no other human beings have. Jesus had that unique quality. We could call it divine nature. So that is the way how low Christology dealt with divine nature over Jesus Christ, who is, according to them, a man himself. Now, Unification Christology, with a good ontological truth to explain their complete unity. As I explained a little before, God has dual characteristics of Sonsan and Hyunsan. Christ as a man also has dual characteristics of lowercase Sonsan, lowercase Hyunsan. And because of resonance between the unity of dual characteristics up there and the unity between small Sonsan and small lowercase Hyunsan down here, there's a resonance of a unity there. Acting energy comes and joy is felt, is given from below. Complete unity, because God is a God of love and sacrifice through his dual characteristics of Sonsan. So was Jesus Christ as a man, completely sacrificial and loving. Therefore, complete unity, Jesus becoming completely divine. Unification theology is neither high Christology nor low Christology. Probably some of you might say Unification Christology is a low Christology because Christ is completely a man who later assumes divinity, divine nature of some kind. But I would say Unification Christology is neither high Christology nor Christology, because Unification Christology believes that Jesus as a man became completely divine through the dynamic resonance between two sets of dual characteristics. Completely divine. That's a very important point that distinguishes Unification Christology from low Christology.
Dr. Shimmyo,
Yeah.
Dr. Shimmyo, just I want to let you know that probably you have about eight more minutes, and
Okay.
I just want to give you some sense of time because I know
sure.
there will be a lot of interest to have some conversation.
Oh, okay. So can I continue?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Thank you. The mystery of the Trinity in Christianity, as I said, three gods and one God. There's a contradiction here. That's why it says mystery. And mysterious diagrams on the Trinity. it's difficult for us to figure out the meaning of what these diagrams say. Now, two conflicting heresies of monarchianism in the late 2nd century and 3rd century. Modalistic monarchianism, MM, and dynamistic monarchianism, DM. MM does not mean Mike Mickler, okay? God is only one. Monarchianism say, I don't know if Dr. Mickler is with us, but anyway, God is only one, because Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are merely three successive modes of one and the same God. They are all divine within the Godhead here. So there is only oneness here. But when it comes to dynamic monarchianism, DM, God is only one in the sense that only the Father is God and divine, a divine creator. And the two other figures, the Son and the Holy Spirit, are merely creatures, not divine. So three separate beings, a mere man, if Son is mere man, if with power, dynamis in Greek. That's why it's called dynamistic monarchianism. By the way, modalistic monarchianism, today there is a oneness Pentecostalism that is very similar to MM, actually. Which one of the two would you prefer to the other? Probably some unificationists might say DM is probably better. However, Tertullian preferred neither of the two, avoiding both of them to take an obscure middle position between them. Tertullian is a very important theological Latin theologian, because he is usually called the father of Latin Christian theology, and his position was accepted as orthodox in the church. Now his position, avoiding both MM and DM, he came up with an obscure middle position. Both were avoided. In the middle right now, quite obscure. Now, according to Tertullian and also Christian church that inherited Tertullian's idea, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are distinct from each other, from one another, more distinct. In case of MM, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit were not distinct enough. Now, when it comes to Tertullian position, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are more distinct, but they are not separate from one another. So it's different from DM. It is different from MM and different from DM as well. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are distinct but not separate. Tre persone, three persons, in una substantia, in one substance. Latin word persona in the day of Tertullian didn't actually mean a self-conscious individual person in modern English, but rather just legal ownership or an actor's mask in the theater. Here is obscurity. The unification doctrine of the Trinity now. It has a conceptuality of complete unity of God and creation, in spite of them being discrete from each other. So it can contain both MM and DM without any contradiction in its comprehensive scheme of thought that has both God and creation completely united. Now look at this diagram here. MM and DM. MM is about the realm of God. DM involves the realm of creation. But according to unification ontology, God and creation can be completely united. That is the reason why MM and DM can be accommodated within one comprehensive system without any contradiction. Now, MM becomes the inner Trinity. Look at this here. God, within God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are God's heart, God's Son, God's Hyunsan. and look at the outer Trinity. Here, larger circle. Within that, God and the Son as perfected Adam in the realm of creation. Holy Spirit as perfected Eve. Both of them constitute true parents. 1 and the 3 become together here. This is the unification doctrine of the Trinity. So mystery is gone. Outer Trinity is God, perfected Adam, perfected Eve. At the level of creation is the substantial manifestation of the inner Trinity, heart, Son, Son, and Hyun-san, at the level of God. Heart, Son, Son, and Hyun-san, at the level of God. The inner and the outer Trinity are completely united while they're discrete from each other. Okay? Inner Trinity, outer Trinity, they are discrete from each other, although they are completely united with each other. Finally, God, perfected Adam, and perfected Eve in the outer Trinity are completely united while they are discrete from one another. Perfected Adam and perfected Eve are not God per se, but they are fully divine. Okay, this ends my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention.
Excellent presentation, Dr. Shimmyo. Bravo. Very stimulating and powerful. If you would stop screen sharing at this point,
Okay.
and we're going to have ample time for conversation. The chat column is buzzing with questions. Before we go to the chat, I just wanted to ask if you might say additional word about Dr. Young-Eun Kim, who was really a mentor to so many unifications in the area of theology, and how you might see your work building upon her foundation.
Okay, I learned a lot from Dr. Kim, Young Kim. She was a theology teacher, Unification Theology teacher when I entered UTS as a member of the first class. And my book, I think, is a more in-depth study of Unification Theology. That's one element. And Dr. Young Kim may have tended to deny the omnipotence of God's omnipotence, probably because DP teaches that we have a 5-portion responsibility, and as long as we don't fulfill our responsibility, then God's will cannot be done. So that may have led her to believe that God is not omnipotent. Also, she may have tended to deny full divinity of Christ. She may have had a tendency not to really acknowledge the meaning of the significance of the Trinity. But in my case, I accept those things: God's omnipotence, Christ's divinity, full divinity, and the Trinity as very important ones in a new context, to be able to have more dialogue with the conservative segment of the Christian tradition. So that's one way of explaining my project.
Just a quick follow-up. Thank you for that. In terms of the Christian tradition, as we know, it's vastly diverse and full of a variety of opinions. And I wonder, and I like that you kind of saw Tertullian kind of being a unifier of this monistic monarchianism and this dynamic monarchianism closer to but is there a theological school or particular theologian that you identify with most closely as a kind of fellow traveler with unificationism?
Yeah, I would say Jürgen Moltmann.
Which is more the Lutheran, at least coming from Lutheran roots.
Lutheran religion. He understands, when he talks about the Trinity, his theory of the social doctrine of Trinity.
Yes.
Trinity within the Godhead is going to be reflected in our human relationships, in a family relationship. So he seems to be talking about two different sets of Trinity. So it resembles my presentation of the distinction between the inner Trinity and outer Trinity.
Anyway, my mind is bubbling with questions, and but I'll restrain myself because I want to go to the chat column, and I would like to give you the floor, Dr. Shimmyo, to offer your concluding thoughts, and then I'll turn it back over to Dean Boyd for any closing comments.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I have been able to receive stimulating comments or stimulating questions. Those comments and questions really motivate me to be more engaged in theological studies. What else can I do? You know, I'm happy that those people who participated in this faculty forum are very much interested in theology. So from now on, I will spend more hours to pursue my theological studies until we can reach a point at which we can be very close to God. Theology, to me, is something finite. Theology is not absolute. Yet, through the mediation of theological studies, we can grow, become closer to God. That's my thinking, that I feel that I'd like to continue my pursuit of God even more before, as a result of today's opportunity of being able to make my presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I think on behalf of everyone, we're very grateful to you, Dr. Shimmyo, not only for this faculty roundtable, but for the devotion you've had to take theology so seriously, be a great faculty member, an educator, and a teacher, and now with this book, I think a very important author for our movement. We'll keep everyone posted and announce when the book's available out of HJI Press. And I think tonight you got a number of people who are encouraging you to be thinking about future publications. So don't see this as your grand finale, but some penultimate effort. So thank you very much. And Dean Boyd, I would like to turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Walsh. And of course, thank you very much, Dr. Shimmyo, for your excellent presentation. Hours and hours, years and years of research, prayer, investigation brought forth this really a jewel that will remain with us into the future. And I'd just like to make the comment that those of you who are with us tonight and those that will see this recording, this is a wonderful example of the value of HJI and what we have to contribute to our greater community in America and around the world. This deep analysis and understanding of very complex topics, and of course, is well worth the investigation, the study, and the effort that Dr. Shimmyo put into this work to bring it to us. And that is true also of other amazing scholars here at HJI, including Dr. Mickler, Dr. Wilson, Dr. Walsh, and others, Dr. Thomas Ward, many others are here. And we invite you to come. And if you haven't studied with us, we would like to come back and take a class, we would love to have you with us. It's this sharing of these very profound ideas that make our institution meaningful for all of us here and for the broader community. So Dr. Walsh, thank you again for your hosting us tonight. Dr. Shimmyo, a privilege and a pleasure to have you with us this evening.
Thank
And
you.
to all of our viewers today, look forward to upcoming events. We're regularly producing programs like this on academic topics and other topics, and we invite you to attend going forward in the future. So